How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got banished and got harem with Alisa, Akame and Leone? Part 2. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Waking up the next morning to find Esdeath still snuggled into him from behind, Naruto sighed as he moved his arm and looked at the bracelet to find the veins once more and traced one of the veins running across his body. Something was connected between him and the god arc. But if he could just figure out the connection, then he'd understand everything. And then there was the fact that his grandfather Linka came to see him. Giving such very little information about his power. He was informed that he'd understand everything when he unlocked the ability called Dragon Pulse. Why? Why did he have to wait so long to get answers? Was this a game to Linka? Was he being played? But his musings were cut short when Esdeath stirred awake and let go of Naruto. Opening her eyes as she looked into his, she smiled and seized his lips. Naruto was seriously taken back when she did that, but his mind melted into the kiss as he began to push his tongue into her mouth. Breaking from the kiss with a chain of saliva, he looked into her eyes and found that she was happy. No doubt from the kiss she had received or from the fact that they were sleeping in the same bed. Getting out the bed she went to get dressed while Naruto placed his hand over his mouth. He had just did that to an enemy. Sure it felt good, but Silveria and probably those that were in love with Naruto would be very much unhappy. Especially Silveria. Getting out of the bed, Naruto got dressed simply by putting his coat back on. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, Naruto found that one of the veins now reached just under his left eye. Why was his body slowly being consumed by the god arc? But when he had Incursio, the effects were nulled. As if the bloodlust had been sated. Walking out the room only to feel Esdeath slam the chain on the collar around his neck again. Come along. We must go see the others. The Yuggers. Said Esdeath as she pulled him along the halls. Arriving there, Naruto found many people there. One was a woman with brown hair, another woman with black who reminded Naruto too much of Akame. But then again, he was told by Akame that they looked very much alike, only thing different was the eyes. She was seen eating cookies as she looked to him. Then there were the three guys. One wore a white mask over his face and wore no shirt, one had black hair and wore a blue suit, and the last was a blondie and had a look so smug you wanted to jam a needle in his eye almost every time he'd open his tucking mouth. Sitting down in the one chair. Or more like being slammed into the chair by Esdeath and then chained more to the chair by her. She walked into the other room while the guy with black hair sat down next to Naruto. Name's Wave. This is Bulls, Seryu, Kurama and Ran. Said the man introducing the Yuggers. Hi. Was all Naruto said as he sat there with a face that made him look like he wanted to get out of the damn chains he was in right now. Well, can't blame him. Any of you married? Asked Esdeath returning to the room. At that moment, the doors flew open as a little girl and a woman were seen making their way into the room. Appa! Shouted the little girl as she jumped into her father's arms. The woman walked up to Bulls and handed him a lunch bag with a smile on her face. Dear. You forgot this at home. She said. Oh, I'm so sorry dear. Thank you so much for bringing me it. He said as he embraced his wife. See you at home. Come along dear. Said the lady as she took her daughter's hand and led her out. Bye-bye doggy. She said to Naruto as she left. Take this damn thing off. Please. Said Naruto crying and I'm tears at what he was called. Esdeath-sama. I think he would be fine. He wouldn't leave us. Said Wave with Seryu agreeing. You don't know that. Chirped Naruto in his head as he gave a bored expression. Agreeing to it, she took the chains and collar off Naruto allowing him to rub his neck. Wave then spotted the veins along his arm. He saw the one under his eye and thought it was a birthmark, but seeing it along his arm he was definitely curious. What's with the lines? He asked. Oh no. They just showed up. Said Naruto placing his hand over the veins. Soon he felt his heart give one irregular beat and his eyes flashed very quickly, no one saw the change in the eyes. That was when he heard the voice of Linka in his mind. One coin holds life. The other, death. Which one? Take a gamble to which face lands up. Said Linka as the sound of a coin clinking echoed in his mind. I choose life. Whispered Naruto. Hearing the same clinking noise in his mind he heard Linka chuckle. Well done. Life it is. Replied Linka as the irregular beating of his heart stopped. Seeing that no one saw anything irregular or him acting weird, he continued on like nothing happened. As they ate breakfast, a soldier burst through the door and saluted to Esdeath. Esdeath-sama. The fort you asked us to look at has been acquired. He said. Excellent. Come on everyone. Time to show our new member what we can do. Said Esdeath as everyone got up and made their way to the bandit fort. 30 minutes later. Standing on the ledge, Esdeath and Naruto stood as they looked about while the others were busy fighting. Clashing of steel and a few projectiles echoed through the fort. Naruto himself felt outcasted for standing here with Esdeath for not being able to go and have a blast. But that was when the irregular beating began. But this time, his eyes shifted to the eyes he had on the ship when he accessed the terrible power that laid within Red King. His right hand's nail grew into claws and his left eye shifted to the demon eye his head. The horns on his head also began to grow as he tried to keep it in. Even the smell of something burning graced the nose of Esdeath. "What is that smell?" she said as she looked to Naruto to see him steaming while he held his one arm. "You okay?" she asked as she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Well, you're burning up. Do you have a fever?" she asked only to have Naruto launch himself really far. A small trench left where he shot off. He launched so far in fact that he landed right in the base. Looking about as many of the bandits took aim at Naruto, he smiled sadistically as he breathed out a trail of mist. Shooting to the top as fast as he could, he ripped the one bandit in half. In the blink of an eye, it went from a simple show of strength on the part of the Jaegers. Was now a bloodbath as Naruto tore bandits limb from limb. But that was when Naruto's mind clicked into deeper bloodlust as the white mask appeared over his face. Over in Night Raid HQ, Red King was going crazy. The weapon's chainsaw was going absolutely nuts as Silveria and the others stood in the doorway. They could not even touch it as if they did, the sword will go berserk on them. That was when Alisa walked over to the weapon, Red Queen in her hands as she tapped the weapon with the tip of her sword. Instantly the God Ark's chainsaw stopped buzzing as the motor became silent. Turning over to them she nodded her head and hefted Red Queen onto her shoulder. Inside the one room, Naruto has torn a man's throat open as blood splashed everywhere while the mask on Naruto's face broke apart as Naruto breathed heavily. Dropping the bandit, Naruto struggled to calm his nerves. He had lost control. Why did he lose control? But that was when the doors burst open to reveal Esdeath and her team as she looked to Naruto. "Are you okay?" she asked. "A little bit," was all Naruto said as he soon collapsed only to be caught by Esdeath. "You're okay, my little demon," she said as she ran her fingers through his hair. "Who knew he'd be into the total slaughter of people? He's perfect for me," she said as she hugged him closer to her. "Commander, we should be going," said Bowles with the rest nodding. A few hours later. Slowly opening his eyes, Naruto brought himself to a sitting position as he placed a hand on his head. He lost control by just watching a simple little skirmish. This definitely raised flags for him. He was now very much worried that he was losing control over his newfound power. Why did he act that way? And why did it suddenly go away when he was being consumed by the power? But his thoughts were stopped when Esdeath came into the room with a bowl of water and a cloth. Dropping the bowl she sprinted and tackled him to the bed. Naruto was now very much creeped out beyond anything. But it also opened his eyes to one thing. Despite how much Esdeath was a sadist who had altered memories with a burning passion to destroy Night Raid, she was showing genuine feelings of concern for him. She was really worried about him. Smiling at the knowledge that she really does have a heart, Naruto gave her the hug back as he wrapped his arms around her. "Don't scare me like that," she said as she looked into his eyes. "I'm sorry for that. I'll be more careful next time," said Naruto as he placed a hand on her cheek. By the time late at night came, Naruto could be seen laying in the bed as a very much naked Esdeath slept to him with him also in the nude. His hands resting behind his head as he stared to the ceiling. It was seriously official now. Silveria and the others were going to kill him. He had just done what no soldier should have done. He not only got comfy with the enemy, but also fucked the commander. Sighing as he got out of bed, he made his way to the window. Slowly opening it, he got dressed and gave Esdeath a kiss on the head. She moaned in her sleep as she gave a warm smile. Stepping out the window and closing it very silently, Naruto jumped over to a tree nearby. Guards patrolled the grounds. With a few on the rooftops. He'd easily be labeled an assassin should he be caught. So he'd have to be quiet. Jumping to the next he soon felt the veins pulse an orange color before he was launched like a bullet to the closest rooftop of the nearest building. The glow stopped and Naruto jumped down to the streets. He didn't like leaving like this. Especially how this would affect Esdeath. But from the point of view of war, they were enemies. It could never have worked out. They'd have to kill each other sooner or later. But he vowed that he'd not be the one to kill her. And if he was, then he'd regret killing her. Or he would have to steel himself and turn his heart to stone and kill her. Those were his options. He'd just have to live with them. Finally making it back to Night Raid HQ, Naruto sighed at finally being home. But then reality hit him like a ton of bricks. Should the subject come up about him having slept with the enemy, then hell was to be played with. Opening the doors as a sigh escaped his lips, he walked to his room, or more like snuck into it. Red King rested against the wall, the weapon as still as the grave. Sitting on the bed as he looked to the ceiling, he replayed what happened when he was in the hands of Esdeath. "Oh yes. Naruto-kun." Her moan echoed through his mind. Smacking the sides of his face as he struggled to rid his mind of such words that came from her sweet lips. But it was the best night of his life. No. What was he doing? She was the enemy. She has killed many people who stood against the emperor. But he has killed many people from the empire as well. Damn it. What should I do? He said out loud in a whisper as he placed his hands behind him. What did I do? He asked as he moved his hand up. So soft. He said but then stopped. Wait. What is? He said as he turned to look who it was. He shot up from the bed as he found Silveria under the covers of his bed. Her cyan blue hair pooled around her as she silently slept. Naruto soon felt his nose leak out a bit of blood when she moved her foot up to reveal the silk panties she wore. Damn it. It just had to come to this. Said Naruto covering his eyes in frustration. I slept with Esdeath and now this. Is this some sick game to you? Whispered Naruto as he looked up to the heavens as if the gods were laughing at him. Naruto-kun. Came a voice from the bed. Naruto's eyes slowly descended and landed on Silveria who was running her eyes as she sat up and looked over to him. The shirt she was wearing just barely hanging on her smooth body. But that was when she truly woke up. Naruto-kun. You're back. She cheered as she slammed herself into him and hugged him to death. Hey Silveria-chan. Was all that Naruto could say as he ran his hands through her silk smooth hair. What happened to you? You were taken like that. Are you okay? You weren't tortured on, were you? She asked going over his body, only to still find the marks on his skin from Red King. I'm okay. Said Naruto as Silveria gave him a kiss on the lips. It's good to have you back. You're going in with mine to take down a member of the Jaegers. Said Silveria with Naruto gaining a face of shock, only to have Silveria giggle. Relax. You'll be given a mask to hide who you are. Said Silveria going to her room. Naruto sighed as he got up and went to the mirror in his room, only to find that the cuts Esdeath gave him when and her were having sex were gone. But that was when Red King revved a bit. You know what happened? Asked Naruto looking at the weapon only to have it rev again. Whatever. Was all that Naruto said as he put his shirt back on. But that soon changed when the sounds of a boulder slamming into the side of the building. Instincts took over as he reached out his hand and red shot into his palm. Closing his fingers over the weapon as the chainsaw began to spin while the engine hummed to life as smoke shot out the vents. Shooting out his room he found a rather large hole near him and a boulder that was lodged into. Oh no. Was all Naruto said as he stepped over to the boulder now blocking Silveria. Silveria-chan. You okay? Called Naruto. Yeah, I'm good. Just stand back. Was all she said. Naruto did as instructed and just in the blink of an eye, the boulder was destroyed while Silveria walked out. Her eyes blazed with flames as her hair flowed behind her as white energies rolled off her. Wow. Was all Naruto could say before she sashayed over to him. I can handle myself, darling. She purred as she ran her hand over his cheek in a seductive manner. I can see that. Was all Naruto said as he switched Red King to gunner mode and began to pelt the advancing enemies with bullets that leapt from the minigun. But what he didn't know was that Dr. Stylish was watching the entire thing through a telescope. And that was when his eyes landed on the place Naruto was. Zooming in he was shocked to see that the devil's hand was really Naruto. Which made him an enemy of the empire. Giving off a small whistle, he sent in the big guns, hoping to stop this new threat. But this would upset Esdeath a lot, but we was the enemy. Killing Night Raid was more important than anything. Seeing the giant things making their way to him, Naruto switched from gunner mode to sword mode. Shooting down he began his sprint to one of them. Red King's chainsaw blazing with speed as the teeth sliced through the air as steam came from the chainsaw. Alisa was soon found running in next to him. Looking over to her, he nodded and they shot into the air as he charged up his dragon wave. While Alisa did her own special move. Silent Strikes of the Nine Hells. Which was an incredible special move as 9 red waves of energy similar to Naruto's dragon wave, but slightly weaker than it came bursting out the tip and sped along with Naruto's dragon wave attack. Both special moves hit the one beast square on and the thing dropped to the ground and it soon fell apart and died from so many cuts. But just before they could congratulate each other, Alisa was hit in the side by a hand from yet another of those things. That was it. Naruto's rage was sent into a new level as his hair turned golden orange, as his eyes shifted to become red with single slit pupils. Red King shifted to have the artificial origami out, which then in turn bit him. But what was astonishing was that the god arc fused with Naruto as he dropped down on all fours. His mouth soon turned to a muzzle, as 9 fluffy red tails burst out his tailbone. But it didn't end there. Naruto soon began to grow as fur began to cover his skin and fox ears shot out on top his head. By the time it was all done, Naruto towered so tall that half his hand was the actual height of his friend. Silveria saw this and soon gasped in shock at what had just happened. Tsubaki, who was busy fending off a few of the forces that went with Dr. Stylish, saw this as well and smiled. So he's done it. He's finally unlocked the first trump card of Red King. Biju mode. She said. Again. Said Silveria. One of the trump cards that tap into the power of the demon king that lays within," said Tsubaki as she gutted the one soldier. Naruto stood up on his haunches as he howled out loud. Gale force winds were kicked up from the power of the roar. Dr. Stylish braced himself as one of his creations was impaled from a tree because it didn't watch. Such power. That looks like the perfect creature. One of such beauty. I must have it. He cheered as Naruto lowered his muzzle and gathered energy that looked red over his mouth, but that was when he looked up and blue energy was sent into the orb being made. But when it was done, Naruto opened his mouth wide and swallowed the orb done. His body shook violently as a small crater appeared under him. But that was when he began to bulge up. Opening his mouth slightly, a powerful form of energy was seen through his teeth as the sounds of something getting ready to fire was heard. Flexing himself back as he soon fired the orb that he swallowed in the direction of the last giant. But as soon as the small form of energy made contact, it exploded to be an even bigger explosion as the giant was vaporized along with Dr. Stylish from the explosion. But Naruto was still as a giant fox with 9 tails. But right above them a ray was seen with 3 people on top. One pulled off the hood to reveal a woman with pink-like hair and headphones, while the other was a guy who looked too serious for his own good. Spotting Naruto down below, they mistook him for a danger beast and dropped down below to attack the new danger beast, but was stopped when Tsubaki was seen waving her arms. Landing next to her, she told them that this danger beast was the power of the Demon King and Red King. But that was when Naruto roared out loud but soon turned back to normal. Shrinking down as he was seen standing there, using Red King to hold himself up as he was in the nude. Silveria grabbed the cloak from the girl and threw it over Naruto while he gave a small sneeze. "You okay?" she asked him. "Just a little dizzy," was all Naruto said as he began to fall asleep from going all out like that. "Don't drop the god arc. You know what will happen if one of us pick it up," said Silveria as Naruto gripped Red King tighter. "I know," he said as they made their way to the ray and climbed on top of it. But the Night Raid HQ now compromised, the group had to find a new base of operations. As the ray flew over a few trees, Naruto tightened his grip on Red King as he looked over to Alisa, who had Red Queen in gunner mode. Looking back to Red King, he clenched his teeth in frustration. He had to learn the secrets of Red King. He had to learn how strong the weapon truly was. He had to understand everything about the weapon if he wanted to have any chance of surviving this nightmare he was thrown into. Once the ray landed in an area that was suitable for a new hideout, the team climbed off. Chelsea along with Susanoo who had shown themselves to the members of Night Raid. As Susanoo was ordered to create a new base for them, Naruto approached Tsubaki. Looking over to the young assassin, Tsubaki arched an eyebrow to him. "Please, train me," said Naruto, shocking her along with everyone else. "Why?" asked Tsubaki. "I need to get stronger. I have to master this power within Red King to protect those I care for. If I ever want to see my friend stay alive throughout this fight, I need to become stronger with Red King. Please, I beg you. Train me," said Naruto dropping to a bow with his head low to the ground. "Raise your head please," said Tsubaki as Naruto shook his head. "I need your help. I need your help to get stronger. I need power," said Naruto. "You don't need power. You need strength. To be able to protect those whom you care for, you need to fight with strength, not power. Power you gain after strength," said Tsubaki as Naruto locked eyes with her. "So does that mean you'll help me?" asked Naruto with fire in his eyes. "It does. But keep in mind, I won't go easy on you," said Tsubaki in a condescending tone. "I will do my best," said Naruto. "Good. We start tomorrow at dawn. Alisa-chan will be there," said Tsubaki with Naruto nodding his head. The creation of the new base took a shorter time than expected and soon enough Naruto had Red King resting against the wall as he got ready for bed. But as he passed the mirror, he looked again as something caught his eye. On his shoulder blade looked to be that of a tattoo he never expected at all. It looked to be that of a tribal tattoo of a fox. While what looked to be a ring of tribal flames rested around the fox. Giving a nod as to not really have expected that, but then again, things had been changing inside him as from the first time he gained Red King as a weapon. Climbing into bed after his shower, Naruto closed his eyes, eager to find what tomorrow had in store for him. The next day. As Naruto tossed and turned, he soon was snapped out of it as a bucket of ice-cold water was doused over his body. Shooting up as fast as he could while he wiped his face of the cold water, he looked to find Alisa and Tsubaki standing before him while Alisa held the bucket. "Wake up time," was all Tsubaki said as the woe of them walked out the room leaving Naruto to get dressed. Pulling his clothes on him as he grabbed Red King, he sprinted downstairs and found the two of them. "You're late. When Alisa-chan here did the training I put her through, she got dressed in no less than 3 minutes. It took you 4. Drop down and give me 30 push-ups worth both myself and Alisa-chan on your back," barked Tsubaki with Naruto sighing as he assumed the position. Both girls jumped on his back and soon enough, Naruto got the push-ups underway. As he did the push-ups, Najenda came into the scene as she watched Naruto do the push-ups. She had to admit one thing. Apart from Naruto having stolen her heart, he was never a quitter. He wanted to grow stronger to where he couldn't even become better. Once Naruto had done the push-ups, the girls got off him with Tsubaki pointing to the bracelet. "Tell me about the bracelet," she said. "Silveria-chan told me that it acts like a key. A key to have the God arc respond to me," said Naruto with Tsubaki crossing her arms. To put it in simpler terms. "Yes, that is correct. But it has more to do than that," said Tsubaki. "See, the bracelet gives the user an advanced awareness and heightened psychical prowess. It doesn't just give you access to the God arc. It also gives you access to use more of your body," said Tsubaki. "How does it work?" asked Naruto. "See, the power of the bracelet didn't require its first host to be of a distant bloodline. It just so happened that Emperor Lenka was the one to find the forbidden Teigu. Once his wrist made contact with the bracelet, it latched onto him and from there his children all gained the bracelet and whichever Teigu was bonded to the bracelet. When the bracelet latched onto your arm, what did you feel?" asked Tsubaki. "A strange tingling feeling and what sounded like the cries of hell. But it lasted for about 3 minutes," said Naruto, clearly remembering how it woke him from his sleep. "Alisa-chan. Tell him what you experienced," said Tsubaki. "I experienced something much more different. I had what sounded like angels and a feeling of calmness," she said as she fixed her head. "Even though Red Queen and Red King hold the same carnage of killing enemies, they are completely polar opposites of one another. Not much is revealed about that, but rumor has it that the two entities that sleep in the God arcs were once lovers," said Tsubaki. "Anyway, you were saying," said Naruto. "Ah yes. Once the bracelet is bonded to you, it syncs your DNA with the oracle cells that dwell inside it. The tingling feeling was the sensing of the cells. Once the sensing was done, the bracelet samples your DNA and waits until you came in contact with the Teigu it is bonded to," said Tsubaki. "And what would have happened if I never came in contact with it?" asked Naruto. "Then the sampled DNA would be purged," replied Tsubaki. "Is there a way to remove the bracelet?" asked Naruto. "No. Once attached it can never be removed apart from one of two circumstances," said Tsubaki holding up 2 fingers. "And that is?" asked Naruto. "The bracelet can be removed when the person wearing it is married or has a child. Either way, the bracelet will fall off and will only accept the child as the new host. Second option is that the person who has the bracelet dies. When the person dies and doesn't have a child, the bracelet will wait until a new host comes along," said Tsubaki. "Wait. Silveria-chan mentioned that the forbidden Teigus have always been in the royal family until the line was broken," said Naruto only to have Tsubaki shaking her head. "It wasn't completely broken. The bracelet on your wrist is the one from Lenka. But the one from his wife, Sakuya never had a host. Alisa-chan's parents found it by accident and it bonded to Alisa-chan's mother. When Alisa-chan was born, the bracelet was passed down to her and from there, Alisa-chan's cells were bonded with the oracle cells," said Tsubaki. "How old were you when you were given the bracelet?" asked Alisa. "I was 7 years old," said Naruto. "Same here. I received mine when I also was 7," said Alisa. "That is because the bracelet will only bond with a new host at the age of 7 because then they are ready to gain the power. But with it being the same age for you, it is because the trace amounts of oracle cells in your body, the bracelet had to wait until the cells matured. So someone in your family had the oracle cells in them. See, oracle cells, once inside you, stay in you. And they are passed down through the bloodline. That is also why the bracelet will only bond to those who are in the family," said Tsubaki cracking her knuckles. "This is so amazing," said Naruto with Tsubaki nodding her head. "It is. Now, time for training," she said as Naruto got ready with Red King revving to life in his hands. By the time when she woke up and found Naruto to not be with her, Esdeath was very much in depression. She seldomly spoke. And when she did, it was reserved to single sentences. She missed the man who stole her heart. She needed to have him once again in her arms. Deciding she had had enough, Seryu approached their commander. "Commander. We've heard of chatter among the people that Night Raid plan on killing a noble later on tonight. If we intercept them, we can strike yet another blow to that corrupt organization," she said as Esdeath looked at her with dull eyes. "Okay," was all she said. "Do I have permission to take them out?" she asked. "Yes," was her only reply. Smiling wickedly at this, she made her way to her chambers to get Koro ready for the attack on Night Raid. Esdeath just looked down at her hands as she let a sigh of sadness. "Oh how lonely it is without you my love," she muttered under her breath. But Night Raid. It had been quite the amount of time. 2 days actually where Naruto had begun his training under Tsubaki on fully learning the forbidden Teigu, Red King. He had come so far and he could already call on parts of the power of the beast within Red King. What he learned was that the power was that of the demon king that slept within the weapon. The only thing, as in the only, thing he could call on, without going into the actual form of the beast. He was right now sparring with Alisa. Both of them were using the heightened power the bracelet offered, while their god arcs both were smoking from the amount of speed they were swinging them at. Slamming them in the center of the training grounds, both looked to be short of breath. Alisa was very much impressed with Naruto as he had come in such a long way in a short space of time. Jumping back as they both switched at the same time to gunner mode, they glared at each other before both fired at each other. Hearing Tsubaki clap her hands, they ceased hostility to one another. Well done. You've certainly proved to be a very strong user of Red King Naruto. You've even proven to be able to match against Alisa who has had years of training under me. Said Tsubaki as Naruto sluggishly hefted Red King onto his shoulder. Thanks. But I feel that there is still more that I can do. Said Naruto as Tsubaki nodded her head. There is. But for now. Rest. We'll continue in the morning. Said Tsubaki as Najenda came into the scene. Well, you may need to put that on hold. She said. Naruto-kun. I need you in mind to take down a noble. He's been doing a lot of human trafficking. He aims to create a forced harem for other noble houses in the region. Naruto-kun. These women are being stolen from their parents against their will. Kill him before he can send off a batch of them. Got it. Said Naruto as he trudged off to freshen up for his mission. Making it to his room he found Silveria sitting on his bed as a bag rested next to her. She smiled to her crush soon-to-be boyfriend as he walked over to her and picked her up and kissed her on the lips to which she welcomed in. Breaking from the kiss as she broke the embrace, she grabbed the bag. Everyone knows that you hold Red King. Therefore that makes you the devil's hand. As well, the soldiers know your face due to you going in with Esdeath. Should your face be seen you will most likely be facing execution. This will be your mask. She said opening the bag and pulling what was in it out. It looked to be a very sinister looking mask as razor sharp looking teeth came out from the top and bottom jaw. It was spray painted a dark grey color as two canines protruded upwards in a sinister way. Seo's mask from Triage X. Here is a link. Upload square. Thank you. This means a lot to me. Said Naruto as he grabbed her waist and gave her a kiss, but she broke it. Do your best, and I'll give you my body. She purred as Naruto smiled graciously. Thank you. Said Naruto giving her a goodbye kiss and leaving before he grabbed the mask and put it on. Walking out to find Mine busy fixing up Pumpkin, they nodded to each other as they headed out. As they made their way to their target, Naruto found something very unsettling. Like a very ominous feeling was coming down upon them. Dismissing the feeling as just nerves, they continued on to their target. Once they made it, Mine set up Pumpkin, while Naruto got Red King into gunner mode. Letting the barrels spinning they waited. But it didn't take long as their target came into view as he was seen accompanied by many women. Clicking his tongue as the barrels slowed and then stopped, Mine looked over to Naruto. What's wrong? She asked. I can't make that shot. Too many innocents in the way. He replied as Mine chuckled. Well, lucky for you, I'm here. She said as she aimed Pumpkin. Pulling the trigger, the shot was heard and the noble dropped to the floor. Shouting out in triumph, they returned back to base. But Naruto caught something in the corner of his eye. Pushing Mine out the way while bringing up the shield, Naruto blocked a powerful strike that pushed him back quite a bit. When the attacker backed away, Naruto switched the weapon back to sword mode and glared at the person who made her way to them. My. I didn't expect the devil's hand to be here. But this is great. You've been destroying the justice we've been holding. You're a blight on this righteous land. Said Seryu as her face became warped. Shit. Cursed Naruto under his breath as he got ready to attack. Great. A fanatic. Said Mine getting up as Korra made its way to its master. Be careful, Mine-san. That Teigu is a nasty piece of work. Said Naruto as the chainsaw revved to life. Justice will prevail. Koro, attack. She ordered and the Teigu launched at Naruto while Seryu went for Mine. Naruto swung Red King at Koro, but the dog managed to stop the incoming attack and send Naruto into a few trees. Slowly picking himself up, Naruto clicked his tongue as he tapped into the demon within the Teigu. Naruto's eyes instantly changed to have it as red with single slits, while his nails became claws. The bracelet soon enough engaged and the orange glow in the cracks were seen as Naruto's strength surged through the roof. Sprinting as fast as he could, he swung Red King again and this time managed to hit the Teigu. But he missed the core. Koro hit Naruto square in his chest as Naruto was then grabbed by Koro and was then slowly crushed by the dog that had gone into its trump card. Struggling to get out, Naruto coughed up some blood as he felt a rib snap like a twig. Glaring at the dog, he whistled with all his might and Red King shifted to be in gunner mode and sprayed Koro with a whole lot of bullets. Dropping Naruto to the ground, Koro stumbled back as the bullets continued. Picking up Red King, Naruto soon found the core and began to charge up Dragon Fire. The powerful finishing attack for the gunner part of Red King. Firing the powerful attack, Koro soon found it could no longer hold out against such a powerful strike. So in the end, Koro exploded. Dropping to the floor, Naruto looked over to Mine to see that she was missing an arm and badly wounded. Saryu had seen better days herself as she laughed like a mad person. A countdown timer was soon heard and Naruto soon sped to Mine. Picking her up, he used the bracelet's power and rocketed out of there. An explosion echoed in the distance as a mushroom cloud was seen for miles. Looking down to the passed out woman in his arms, he continued his journey. "Just hang in there, Mine-san," said Naruto as he increased his speed, breaking the sound barrier in the process. Slamming himself into the ground outside the front entrance to the HQ of Night Raid, Naruto watched as the door soon opened up to reveal his comrades standing there with weapons ready. But they ceased hostility when they saw it was Naruto. Leone and Lubbock ran to Naruto when they saw the bleeding Mine in his arms. "Please, we need to stabilize her. She's lost quite the amount of blood," said Naruto, laying her down as Leone placed 2 fingers against her neck. "She's stable for now. Let's get her inside. Lub, help me out," said Leone as Lubbock nodded his head and helped get Mine inside. The operation took a lot longer than normal. A total of 6 hours was used in that space to get Mine out of the red zone. The operation was hard and long. But eventually they had her stable and mounted an arm much like Nagenda's, but more slimmer. With knowing that Mine was gonna be okay, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief as he made his way back to his bedroom. Sitting on the bed as he examined the marks on his body, he was soon brought out of his musings when the door slowly creaked open to reveal Silveria there. Walking over to him, she sat down on the bed and turned his head to hers as she ran a hand on his arm, feeling the intricacy of the marks he bore. "You fought bravely," she said with Naruto lowering his head into her chest. "I know. But Mine-chan was injured," said Naruto. "But this is still a win on our side," she stated as she stroked his hair. "Silveria-chan. I'm so lost. Please help me find the way," said Naruto as he looked to her eyes as she closed them and slowly unbuttoned her shirt. "I'll give you more than a direction," she purred as she threw off her shirt and pinned him to the bed. Dropping onto the bed as they breathed heavily and taking in the thrill of their session together, Silveria snuggled into her now lover's chest as she looked to him. "That was amazing, Naruto-kun," she said as Naruto wrapped an arm around her, bringing her close. "Damn right it was," said Naruto as Silveria's eyes soon began to close. Smiling at this, he gave her a kiss on the forehead. Naruto stared to the ceiling. He had just had sex with another woman. But as he thought about his amazing time with Silveria, as death passed into his mind, he could only imagine how depressed she was right now. How he was no longer there with her. Shaking his head on trying to get such thoughts out his mind, he chose to close his eyes and fall asleep. Not even knowing what the next day would bring. Stirring himself awake, Naruto opened his eyes as he slowly pushed the eyelids open to find himself in his room with a weight on his left arm. Looking over to his arm, he found it was Silveria. Her moans pierced the air as she snuggled further into his chest. Watching her slowly opening eyes, Naruto smiled to her as she did to him. Slowly the pair sat up as they wiped the sleep from their eyes. Looking at the floor before them, they marveled at it. It was like a tornado stormed through the room as articles of clothes littered the floor. Even Silveria's silk panties rested on Naruto's mirror. Turning to Silveria as she too looked to him, she simply smiled as she grabbed her clothes and got out the room. But not before giving him a kiss for the lovely night. But the two of them now lovers, Naruto decided now was a good time to get up. Today he'd be learning more about his power shifts. Where he'd gain more of his power without turning into the Demon King itself. Tsubaki said it was something he had to learn. It was also something that could be done without Red King. Finally getting dressed, he headed down the stairs and found Tsubaki standing there along with Alisa. "Took you long enough, lover boy," said Tsubaki, making Naruto pale. "You heard that?" questioned Naruto, looking over to Alisa, who was nodding her head. "We all did. You could have toned it down a bit," said Alisa. "Sorry about that," said Naruto with Tsubaki shaking her head. "Either way. The next step of your training goes as follows. You will not be allowed to use your god arc much like Alisa went either. You are to call on the power of the deity that sleeps within the weapon. Seeing that Red King is different to Red Queen. The transformations will differ," instructed Tsubaki with the two teens nodding their heads. Both drove their god arcs into the ground and began to concentrate on drawing out the power of the entity within the weapon they wielded. After a while, both exploded with a ring of energy bursting below their feet. But like Tsubaki said, they were different. Alisa's power was blue and full of warmth and comfort, much like angelic power. But lightning arced all over the place in a display that showed it was powerful as well. While Naruto's glowed a dangerous red. Black mist seeped off his skin as the sounds of pained cries echoed through the air. But both soon to take on a more different form. Naruto's eyes soon began to glow red as the pupil became slitted. His nails turned to claws, while 9 ethereal tails emerged from his tailbone, but they soon shifted to where the tails were replaced by demonic bat wings. His skin turned a full midnight black as his teeth became longer. Alisa too experienced such a shift as her skin became more paler and a halo appeared over her head. His hair shifted to have a few blonde streaks in them. White feathered wings shot out her back as the sounds of lightning crackled and howled around her. "Alright. That's enough," said Tsubaki, making the two teens collapse to the ground as the power left them. Sweat beaded down their faces and bodies as they huffed and puffed. Tsubaki merely smiled and walked off. "Training will happen again in 3 days. Get some rest," said Tsubaki, looking over her shoulder before walking away. A few hours later. With night now here and Silveria finally having her fill of sex with Naruto, she smiled as she snuggled into a pillow that Naruto put there to make her think she was sleeping with Naruto. Zipping up his pants and throwing on his clothes, he grabbed Incursio and headed to the mountains where he could think clearly. He chose to take Incursio this time as there may be no telling should an enemy come in. So he chose to have his identity hidden now of all times. Making it to the top, Naruto sat down on one of the rocks of the mountain and looked to the stars, which seemed to be more brighter than usual. "Hey Ka-san, Tu-san. I know it's been a while. But I was just quite busy," said Naruto as clouds passed over showing the moon. The rays splashed over him as he was bathed in a brilliant blue spotlight. "I feel that I may lose my mind. I don't even know what I am doing. Or what I've done. Under any circumstances, one would not become the lover of an enemy. But for some reason I did," said Naruto, hanging his head. "Yet, I miss her. Is this what abandonment feels like?" asked Naruto, not seeing a ray fly over his head with someone jumping off it. With Esdeath. Having had enough of waiting around for her forces to find Naruto, she decided it would be for the better to go out and get some fresh air. And get some she did. Jumping onto a ray she flew across the countryside as the rain neared the mountains. Looking up she watched as the clouds moved past her, showing her the beautiful moon that shone everything in brilliant blue. Smiling at how it made her feel a sense of tranquility in her mind, she looked on the horizon. But she soon stopped as something caught her eye down below. Thinking it was a danger beast, she jumped off the ray and slammed into the ground. Landing on the ground, she looked over to the thing before her. Slowly drawing her sword, she smiled sadistically as she fully drew the weapon. "You're alone. Too bad for you. But it looks like you're gonna die now," she said as she lifted her head, ready to strike. But she stopped in her tracks when she saw who it was. Standing right before her was the very man who had been on her mind this whole time. Dropping her sword, she stood there, completely shell-shocked at what was happening before her eyes. "Naruto-kun. Is that you?" she asked, looking to Naruto. Hey Esdeath-chan," said Naruto, making Esdeath shoot towards him. Naruto caught the woman in his arms and held her close. Her tears flowing from his shoulder and onto the ground as Naruto rubbed her back. Sure, she was the enemy, but this was Naruto's first love. So he would feel something for this woman who was holding him so close. "I missed you," she said. "I missed you too," said Naruto as he pulled her away to look into her eyes. "Now ain't this a pretty sight?" came a voice behind them, making Naruto pull out Incursio by instinct. Looking to find a man standing there, Naruto and Esdeath readied weapons and death glared the man. He was clad in a brown cloak as a wicked smile was seen on his face. "Who are you?" demanded Naruto as he and Esdeath got ready to charge. "Your enemy," said the man as he pulled out a strange object. "Oh no you don't," spat Naruto as he charged forth to kill the man. But he didn't get far as a sudden burst of purple light blinded him and Esdeath. Covering their eyes, the last thing they heard was a cackle of maddening laughter as both of them vanished from sight. Slowly opening his eyes, Naruto found himself and Esdeath to be on a tropical island. Far from the empire capital entirely. "How the fuck?" wondered Naruto out loud. "It seems we may have been transported somewhere we have never been," said Esdeath. Esdeath-chan. Can you slap me through the face? Really hard," said Naruto, turning to her. "Naruto-kun. I never knew you were like that. We really are meant for each other," said Esdeath, blushing hard. "No, what I mean is that this could be an illusion. So maybe by slapping me, it could wake me up," said Naruto, proving his reasons to being slapped. "I see. Very well then," said Esdeath, rearing a hand, and Naruto scrunching his face, waiting for the definite blow that was about to come. But he was surprised when he didn't feel a slap through his face, but rather a passionate kiss from Esdeath. Melting into the kiss, Naruto threw his arms around her waist and pulled her closer to him as he opened his mouth for her tongue to gain entrance. Breaking from the kiss, the two gazed into each other's eyes while Esdeath smiled as she broke off from him. "This is no illusion. The area is too real to even be one. I mean, in an illusion, there is never a breeze," said Esdeath as a breeze of fresh tropical wind blew past them. "I guess you have a point," said Naruto. But before they could even carry on, they were soon attacked by the same monsters that Naruto fought with when the previous night Raid HQ fell. Getting Incursio out, he soon felt the blade gain in power, while the marks on his body glowed orange. But Esdeath launched them into the air. Standing back down on a large ice pillar she looked to the approaching beasts. "Watch and learn, my love," she said as an ice spike was launched to one of them. The spike only hit the monster in the shoulder. Seeing his opening, Naruto charged forth and statted the head of the monster. Using the sudden burst in his prowess, Naruto launched himself to the others and dispatched them as fast as possible. Esdeath merely stood there as Naruto landed back on the shore and flicked the blood off his weapon before sheathing it. "And here I thought I could impress him. Now I really want a life with him," said Esdeath as the ice pillar shrank back to the ground. The two decided to explore the island while they wait for the portal to open again. In that time, Esdeath used every bit of time she could find to seduce Naruto once again. And every time, Naruto struggled to keep himself in check. He missed her, yes, but with her now seducing him like that only made it worse for him to keep his control. Finding a small hut in the woods area, they decided to take refuge in there for the night. Pushing the door open, they found there to be a shower room in the one area, which surprisingly had running water. And it was warm as well. A kitchen area and a bed with a fireplace. "Not bad," said Naruto as he looked to the roof and found a few holes in them. "I'll get those repaired," said Naruto pointing to the ceiling. "In the meantime, I'll get into a shower. Don't take too long, love," said looking to Naruto with a seductive smile. Adding some supples and making a paste, Naruto used his bracelet's power and launched to the roof to fix up the holes. As he fixed up the holes, he soon heard the water to the shower run. Followed by the ruffling of clothes falling to the ground and Esdeath sighing as she climbed into the shower. Shaking his head on the temptation on peeking, he resumed his task. Once the roof was fixed, Naruto jumped down and went inside, sitting on the bed as he soon heard the water stop. Turning to the door as it opened, his jaw hit the floor. Esdeath stood there as she had her shirt on, being the only piece of clothing that stayed. Her curves were emphasized by how much the clothing stuck to her wet body. And Naruto couldn't help but get hard from seeing her like this. "Esdeath-chan," said Naruto as she sashayed over to him and pressed a finger to his lips. "SHH. No talking. I've missed this," she said as she tackled his lips. Collapsing next to her as Esdeath snuggled onto his chest, Naruto drew her closer as she let out a sigh of bliss. "You've gotten better at pleasuring me," she purred. "Glad you think so," said Naruto. Looking to her, Naruto felt that there had to be only one way to get the memories sealed in her to be opened. It wasn't the best course of action he'd take, but it had to be done. Looking to her he tapped her shoulder, gaining her attention. "Ever heard of the name, Silveria?" asked Naruto making Esdeath look confused. "No. And why should I?" she snapped. "Just wondering," said Naruto as he gave her a kiss. "Good night," said Naruto as he closed his eyes. As Naruto slept, Esdeath laid there. For some reason, she had heard that name before. But where? She couldn't help but wonder. Who was this Silveria person? And how did she know her? She had to look into this. It had been several days since Naruto and Esdeath were transported back to the regular world. Naruto hid, of course, causing Esdeath to try and find him. Naruto really hated this. He hated the point where he had to avoid her like this. But, until he could end this war, this was for the best, even though it hurt so much. But now here he was, hearing from Legenda that there was more trouble. Apparently a few days after Naruto returned, Esdeath's goons, being Bulls and Akame's younger sister Kurama. She was dispatching Naruto, Akame, Silveria, Leone and Chelsea. Nodding their heads, Naruto made his way to his room and grabbed his mask and got arc when his hand made contact with the handle. The chainsaw roared to life as the weapon was hefted onto Naruto's shoulder. "Yeah. Let's go," said Naruto as they charged out. It didn't take long for Naruto and everyone else to be in position. Naruto and everyone found that the area they were gonna intercept them was in a canyon-type area. Taking the higher ground would very much offer better results beyond compare. Scouting out the area, they waited and waited. But they never even pitched up at all. Clicking his tongue while everyone tried to keep their minds occupied, he soon found Chelsea sitting on a rock as she cycled through the various faces and looks she could don. Getting up and making his way to her, Naruto got her attention by coughing into his hand. "Tell me, what do you do apart from taking on people's faces?" queried Naruto. "Believe me or not, but I help look after an orphanage. The children that have been abandoned by parents who either can't afford to have a child or don't care about the child. I assist where I can," replied Chelsea with Naruto placing a hand on his chin. "I see. And what do you wish to be when this war has ended?" asked Naruto. "I don't know. Maybe have a family, settle down. Have a good job. Cliché, I know. You?" replied Chelsea. "Become emperor," replied Naruto with Chelsea chuckling at what he said. "That may be impossible," You'd have to be of royal blood to ascend the throne," said Chelsea as Naruto shook his head. "See, there's the thing. I am of royal blood. Even though it is quite dilated. I am still of royal blood. I am after all Emperor Lenka's great-great-grandson," replied Naruto with Chelsea's eyes going wide. "No way. Then that must be why you have that god arc. Red King," said Chelsea with Naruto nodding his head. Before they could talk any further, Silveria was seen walking over to them. She told them that Bulls and Kuram were coming into range and that they were ready to strike. Acting fast, Naruto and Chelsea sprinted to get into position. Grabbing Red King and switching it into gunner mode, Naruto took aim with Leone raising a hand to him. "Not yet. You'll give away our position. Wait till they're closer," said Leone. Nodding his head as he got the barrels spinning, Naruto took aim but kept his finger off the trigger. His finger itched to just hose them down with bullets, but he had to keep the element of surprise in their favor. "Not yet," said Leone, her hand still very much in the air. Turning the spinning barrels to track them, Naruto turned to Leone who looked at him and nodded. "Go for it, love," she said. And Naruto unleashed lead fury on them, bullets sprayed down from above as the people in hiding jumped down and began attacking. When Naruto found that Bulls had a flamethrower, much like the one he used when they raided that bandit fortress. Damn it, this was not looking good for his comrades. Switching the god arc to sword mode, he jumped down and blocked a sudden gush of fire aimed to Silveria, who was occupied with attacking the puppet summoned by Kuram, who right now was dealing with her sister, Akame. Turning to find everyone engaged in battle with a puppet from Kuram, Naruto turned to Bulls as he stared down Naruto. "Just you and me, hot shot," said Naruto as he pulled the handle extremely far back and launched the artificial origami within the Teigu. Bulls narrowly missed the incoming monster and watched as it bit down and devoured a puppet that was just summoned seconds ago. He then watched as the origami returned to the weapon and then Naruto switching the weapon into gunner mode and fired several bullets at Bulls. Bulls merely swung his Teigu about as he unleashed fire upon the incoming bullets, melting them as they approached him. Flicking his tongue at how this was inconvenient, Naruto jumped away but was soon followed by Bulls, who fired a large stream of fire at Naruto. Sadly, Naruto looked behind him at the last minute and his mask was burnt in the end. Stopping in a clearing as he pulled a hand to his face, Naruto glared at Bulls as he pulled the mask off with Bulls gasping in shock. "Naruto-san?" questioned Bulls. "You're the devil's hand. So what if I am? You fight for a corrupt government," retorted Naruto as he switched Red King to sword mode and charged. Bulls did everything in his power to dodge Naruto's swings and strikes. Trying being the power word. He was clipped several times and was even hit in the head by the flat side of the sword. Skidding along the way as he felt dazed from being whacked by a sword, he soon found Naruto charging forth even harder. Jumping away considerably, Naruto stopped his antics and raised his sword to Bulls. "Why not fight me? Why choose to dodge and not fight?" growled Naruto. "I do believe that the government is corrupt. Yet they hold my family ransom. They aim to keep me as a loyal pet for them to use as they see fit. That day when they came to our HQ. That was to show you that we are a perfect family," said Bulls as tears rolled out the eye holes of his mask. "So that was also why you couldn't come to Night Raid," said Naruto lowering his sword as Bulls nodded his head. "It was. If they found out I was in league with them, my family would be killed. Please, I can't have my family murdered. Please, I am begging you. I'd gladly give myself to the Revolutionary Army and answer any questions they have for me. But please, save my family," said Bulls dropping his weapon and getting into a bow before Naruto. "You have a cloak I can borrow?" asked Naruto with Bulls looking to Naruto. "Does this mean?" trailed Bulls as Naruto nodded his head. "It does. I'll help you get your family back," said Naruto with Bulls thanking him. When they returned to the battle zone, Naruto found everyone exhausted while Kuram was gone. Sly bitch must have gotten away. But when everyone saw Bulls with Naruto, they got ready to attack. Naruto stopped them and explained the situation to them. After he was done explaining, they agreed to put in a good word to Nagenda to try and get Bulls assigned to Night Raid. But Naruto told Bulls to follow him. He'd use the rooftops and his ability to sneak in and tail Bulls to where they were keeping his family. And that was what they did. Naruto kept a nice distance away from Bulls, but not too far as he wanted to still have him in visual range. When Bulls looked to the sky, Naruto knew the building in front was the one keeping his family. It was what they discussed. When Bulls looked to the sky, it showed that it was the building where his family was. Now Bulls himself couldn't go in as it would show him as an enemy of the capital. But the mission they were sent on was considered to be a suicide mission as the devil's hand was probably gonna be there. So in a sense he was already dead. And if a member of Night Raid busted in and stole them, then it would just pass off as bygones being bygones. And Night Raid would remain as an enemy of the state. Shooting through one of the windows, Naruto stealthily moved through the building, silently killing any guards that would compromise his presence. When he finally made it to the room he suspected had them, he opened it up and found them there. Mother and daughter holding one another as Naruto slowly knelt to them, Red King glistening in the moonlight as he got to his knees. "Please. Leave us alone," begged the mother as she held her daughter close. "It's alright. You're safe now. Your husband Bulls is safe as well," said Naruto. "My husband is dead because you night raid bastards," spat the mother. Naruto merely shook his head. "He's alive. Look out the window and see for yourself," said Naruto pointing to the window. Slowly making her way to the window, she peered down and soon began to cry as she was her husband standing there. Alive and well, much like Naruto said. "Follow me and you can be safe. I'm part of Night Raid. And I'm here to help you," said Naruto with her taking his hand. "Thank you," she said as Naruto picked her up and the child and jumped through the window. Using the bracelet again, Naruto landed with an audible thud next to Bulls, who was now crying tears of joy at seeing his family again. Finally hugging his family as Naruto stood there as he watched the family cry, he couldn't help but be reminded of his own mother and father. What they did for him. And how he was fighting to ensure their deaths were not in vain. Bulls soon enough broke the hug as he turned to Naruto while holding his wife and daughter close to him. "Thank you, Naruto-san," said Bulls with Naruto smiling to them. For well over a week, Esdeath did everything she could to look over the records regarding the name. Silveria. She was very much sure she had heard that name before, but where? It was so familiar, yet unfamiliar at the same time. Why was she remembering such a name? What value did one name hold? Normally she didn't really care about names. It was just a case of people telling her their name. And then being reduced to such an animalistic nature once she was done torturing them. So her main goal right now was to find out about this. Silveria. She pulled out every single document regarding the whole of the population of the empire. Hopefully she'd stumble across the records of anyone with the name Silveria. But as she read through the giant book of every person in the empire, a doctor came into the room and handed her some documents. "Here is the documents you asked for regarding your current state," said the doctor placing down the paper by her. "Thank you," replied Esdeath not turning from the records she had before her. The doctor soon left and when the door closed, Esdeath snapped up the doctor's documents and soon she smiled a rather warm smile while she hung her head with such knowledge. "Naruto-kun. I hope you take this so well. I'll meet you no matter what," said Esdeath as she set the page down and went back to her reading. With Naruto shivering at such a sudden chill that ran through his spine, everyone gathered looked to him while they held faces of confusion. "Something wrong?" asked Shiel. "It's nothing. Just felt like someone was talking about me," was all Naruto said as they went back to what they were doing. Bulls and his family stood before Najenda as she looked at them with a stern gaze. "You wish to join us?" asked Najenda with Bulls nodding his head. "I do. I'll gladly fight for Night Raid and the Revolutionary Army with everything I've got. Only condition is that my family is to be treated well," replied Bulls. "But from what I hear is that you very much attacked every member suspected of being part of the Revolutionary Army or Night Raid. And then executed them without remorse," said Najenda leaning forward. "I had no choice but to do that. They very much said they'd kill my family and have them displayed to everyone. I didn't want my family to be murdered. Please. I beg you. Grant us sanctuary here," begged Bulls dropping to his knees along with his wife and daughter. "But there is one thing I cannot avoid. You are extremely handy with the Teigu of yours. And right now, we need all the firepower we can get. That is why I'm willing to overlook these glaring issues. Your family will be allowed to stay here. Bulls, you yourself will be placed under supervision by one of our own. How that works is that on missions, you will be watched as you carry out the mission. Should you even think of double-crossing, we'll have you face the fury of the Revolutionary Army. And trust me, they're far less kind than I," said Najenda. "So does that mean we can stay?" asked Bulls looking up. "It does. Congratulations, Bulls. You're now part of Night Raid," said Najenda with mind getting them settled into the mansion in one of the rooms. Once they were finally settled in, Alisa called Naruto away for a few minutes. Naruto followed Alisa into her room and soon found her closing the door and locking it right away when Naruto entered the room. "Alisa-chan. What's going on?" asked Naruto with Alisa clamping her lips onto his and pushing him against the door with an audible thud. Humming down from their highs while Naruto unsheathed himself from Alisa's beep, he sighed in relief as Alisa snuggled onto his chest. Also breathing a strong sigh of satisfaction from the session they just had. "That was amazing," said Alisa as Naruto ran a hand over her back. "Sure was," replied Naruto as Alisa gave him a kiss on the lips. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," replied Naruto as they soon fell asleep. It had been quite some time since Naruto and Alisa had sex. Over the space of 3 weeks, Naruto and the various other women who loved him or had a crush on him had finally gained the opportunity to say that they were a lover of Naruto. But for Shield, she had an even better card to play. Even though Naruto was her first time, she was to be found pregnant with Naruto's child. Tsubaki couldn't stand what the fuss was with how great Naruto was in bed, so she decided to see for herself. And before she knew it, she was very much addicted to Naruto as the others were. Naruto himself had gained quite the amount of strength as well in the space he had been training. He along with Alisa had finally gained their deity mode, as they've taken to call it. Naruto could very easily call on parts of Red King to assist him in battle and even use a cloak-like energy field around his body, which also increased his physical prowess to the next level. But it was still slightly uncontrollable and tired him out rather quickly. So it was more of a last resort than anything else. But for Naruto, he himself could feel incredible power flowing through his veins, and finally, Red King was no longer attacking him. Even though the marks that were there because of the weapon remained still. But soon enough, it was time to gain yet another mission. Nearly everyone was sent out. Bowles was sent to deal with some high-end dictator, along with Silveria, Mine, Susanoo and Leone. While Shield, Alisa, Chelsea and Akame were on a recon mission further down west. So it was just Lubbock and Naruto. They were both standing before an agenda as Bowles' wife held out some snacks which she prepared for them along with her daughter. She constantly told them that she had to do her part. And took to cooking meals and cleaning for them. Naruto and Lub both thanked her for the snacks and got the meeting with Najenda over with. They were to go in and kill the Prime Minister's son. And from the reports, he held a Teigu that could transport a person to another area. It was very much like the one Naruto encountered when he went to the mountain and met up with Esdeath. Biting his lower lip in frustration, Naruto and Lubbock left the base and headed to the only place the Prime Minister's son would be. And the very place Naruto was when he was taken in thanks to Esdeath. They'd be meeting up with someone from the inside and enter there. This was gonna be a big one. An assassination that would very much rile up the empire and cause a panic. All the more reason to not screw it up. Walking along the roads while doing his best to conceal his face from view while hiding Red King, Naruto walked along with Lubbock to the gate where they'd meet up with the inside source. "Hey Lub?" asked Naruto looking to his friend and comrade. "What?" asked Lubbock. "What will you do when we've won?" asked Naruto. "I don't know. Open up a library where I can sell books," said Lubbock, shocking Naruto. "I want to spread knowledge around the world and show them that you are good for something. That knowledge can be obtained to anyone. That's a good take on life. I'll be glad to see it through," said Naruto with Lubbock agreeing with him. Soon enough, their inside source came through to them and told them to follow her. But things soon began to go wrong as the two assassins found that they were being led right out in the open. And sure enough, they were ambushed by guards and the Prime Minister's son himself, Sire. Well. Looks like we've got some vermin we need to get rid of," he quirked, showing a sadistic smile. "I'm sorry. But I had to protect my husband. He was going to be executed." She barked only to be shot in the head, falling into Naruto's arms. "You bastard," growled Naruto, unwrapping Red King from his back with the chainsaw revving to life while Naruto slipped the mask on and lifted his face. "If it isn't the devil's hand himself. Oh, how awesome it would be for you to die here," said Sire as he brought out his Teigu. "Naruto, deal with the guards." "I got him," said Lubbock, also getting his Teigu ready. Agreeing to it, Naruto charged forth and attacked the guards with everything he had. But these guards were no pushovers and proved to be pretty strong themselves. Deciding to step it up, Naruto called up his deity mode with Red King, now becoming more and more sinister than ever before. The chains on the weapon spun more violently as a very dark aura was produced around Naruto as phantom-like horns shot out his head with his nails going to claws. Slamming himself dead on into the guards, he managed to incapacitate a few of them while some got out the way. Firing Red King when he switched it to gunner mode, he fired as many bullets as he could to the enemy as he soon began to approach his limits. Deactivating deity mode before his energy was eaten fully, Naruto sprinted and swung the god arc to fence off the other last of the soldiers. But when he looked over to Lubbock, Naruto found that Lubbock was in the air and soon to become a meat sack while the amount of guards waiting to impale him. Sprinting as hard as he could, only to burst shot in the Achilles tendons, he dropped to the floor with an audible thud. But to him, saving Lubbock was worth getting captured. Naruto couldn't stand the fact that yet another of his friends would die. He lost too much now. He had to save him. Getting to his feet, Naruto used his bracelet's power and surged forth and toppled the guards down along with Sire. Getting to his feet, he pulled the hilt of his god arc so far back that the artificial origami burst out and grabbed Lubbock. Throwing Lubbock as hard as possible once Lubbock was conscious, Lubbock found that Naruto was captured. So he did the only thing he knew. That helped to bust Naruto out. Hanging his head as Sayara laughed while he then punched Naruto extremely hard in the face, he lowered down to Naruto's level. Esdeath will have a very fun time with you. He cackled while the soldiers dragged Naruto to the dungeon. With Esdeath. To her, this was a huge finding. All her searching had finally paid off. The name that had been in her head for a long time was finally pulled into the light. Silveria. That woman was something who you could say was in a sense relatable. This very much shocked Estia beyond recognition. But before she could finish up her findings, a guard burst through the door and walked to her. "We've captured the devil's hand," he whispered into her ear. "Thank you," said Esdeath, getting up and walking to the dungeon. As she walked, she found that this was very much a bonus. She could finally get rid of the scourge that had plagued the empire as of now. And not only that, but also finally be with Naruto, seeing that the threat was gone when the devil's hand was dead. With Naruto sitting there on his knees as he looked to the floor, Naruto sighed rather extremely hard. He knew the price for joining such a group. But he joined them anyway. He knew the consequences of doing what they did. But he did them anyway. And yet here he was. Ready to face whatever came his way, even though he didn't want to face it. "The time has come," said Linka's voice as he phased into existence before Naruto. "Time for what?" barked Naruto. "Time for you to learn the truth behind Red King," said Linka, taking Naruto within his mind. "What do you mean?" growled Naruto, looking at Linka as his grandfather smiled to him. "The truth behind your god arc. It is time for you to know about the amazing power the Red King holds," spoke Linka with Naruto hanging his head. "What good will that do?" as a weak smile crept on his face. "I'm about to be tortured and most definitely executed for being an enemy of the empire." "Ah, but that is where you're wrong. Red King will always come to its master's side. Regardless of where he or she is. Only reason why the god arc isn't here is because it is time for you to learn about its past," responded Linka with Naruto looking to him. "Don't you wish to truly know what it means to be the one to be the wielder of Red King?" asked Linka with Naruto dropping his head. "I guess it wouldn't hurt to know Red King's past," said Naruto, and soon found his subconscious ripped from his body and him taken to a place deep into his mind where he found various portraits. 2 chairs rested in the center of the room, with Linka sitting in one and Naruto in the other. Now, as we all learned, before man came into being, there was the gods and demons. The gods created man and the demons created beings of horrendous nature. The monsters we refer to as danger beasts," said Linka. "That's nice. But how is Red King tied to this?" spoke Naruto looking to Linka. "It has everything to do with Red King. And Red Queen," said Linka. "See, there was a time of peace for the gods and demons where the demons and gods respected each other and left each other alone. Man and danger beast lived in harmony and sought no harassment with one another. Over the years, the gods were expecting a child for their rulers. But some demons didn't like this idea of having more gods, with their species dwindling under the oppression of having the gods outlive them. Now, as we all knew, demons live extremely long lives. But the gods lived longer lives than the demons. As a means to stop the birth, the demons broke into the home of the rulers and killed the wife where she slept. The gods found out it was the demons, and soon, war broke out. The war was named the Demon Wars. Many people lost their lives, with humans and danger beasts being added into the mix. The war was bloody and lasted for many years," said Linka with Naruto leaning forward. "Do carry on," said Naruto, expecting more of the gripping story. With many casualties on both sides, the war was very much looking like a win for the demons. But with the war entering its final stages, a young demon king that went by the name of Kurama was patrolling the border and found a wounded god that happened to be the daughter of the general of the god's forces. The woman went by the name Kami. She had a very nasty injury given to her and she had lost a lot of blood. Slowly drawing his weapon, Kurama sought to finish the job. But when he actually looked at her, he couldn't do it. He couldn't kill her. Cursing at what he was about to do, he took her to an abandoned house deep in the wooded area and nursed her back to health. But when she woke up and found a demon king before her, she cursed him and felt him, mocking him that he was too weak to finish the job. But as she went about her life, she felt that she had to thank him for saving her life. Finding him in the cabin where she was nursed to health, she found him packing away the items she threw at him. She thanked him for saving her life, and soon, before she even knew it, her and Kurama had formed a very strong friendship. However, over the years, Kami soon began to like Kurama more than a friend, and so did Kurama," replied Linka. "Don't tell me," trailed Naruto, and Linka nodded his head. "Yes. Kurama and Kami became lovers, knowing full well that they were enemies. But they were soon found out by their comrades. The two lovers did everything they could to escape the rage of everyone. This carried on for as long as they could remember, but they soon ran into the emperor who was creating the Teigus. Speaking with him, they convinced the emperor to use them as a way to create 2 forbidden Teigus. He agreed and the two lovers were turned into weapons. But interesting thing was that when together, they'd resonate and create even more stronger energies. Reason why they could resonate was that the love they still held for each other was so strong, it ended up that way. The war ended and the gods and demons abandoned our world. All but two. Concluded Lenka. Red King and Red Queen. Said Naruto with Lenka nodding his head. Correct. Now, you know of the real reason why Red King and Queen are what they were in the past. Said Lenka. They were once lovers. A forbidden love. Said Naruto with Lenka holding up his finger. It is, now it is also a bit weird in this next part. Those who hold the bracelet and control the god arc of either Red King or Red Queen. They are in a sense, repeating the cycle of the lovers. As the god arcs were again, once lovers. Said Lenka as Naruto was soon blinded by a bright light. Good luck my grandson. I know you will do your best. Said Lenka with Naruto opening his eyes to find Esdeath standing in front of him. Well. If it isn't the devil's hand. It's a pity we can't move your weapon from the grounds as it keeps attacking our guards. But it won't matter as you will be soon dead. This will also mean the man I love can be with me knowing you are gone. Said Esdeath lifting Naruto's face. Let me see your face. She growled taking hold of the mask. Pulling it off, she soon gasped when the person who was the devil's hand was revealed. It was her lover. Naruto. How was this possible? Why? Naruto-kun. She said as she knelt down to him. Yes. Are you happy? The man whom you so desperately wished to kill was your lover. Said Naruto only to have Esdeath lay a hand on his shoulder. Don't say that. I loved you. But I'm rather surprised that you are the devil's hand. Said Esdeath. So what? You wanna kill me? Said Naruto with Esdeath shaking her head. I'm sure the emperor will overlook these crimes and let you go. Please, come home to me. Let us get married. Have children. Said Esdeath only to have Naruto look down. You're so blinded. We can never have a normal life until the empire is toppled with a new one built as well. Said Naruto with Esdeath too lowering her head. Is that your final wish? She said. It is. Replied Naruto harshly. Then I'll see you at your execution. She said jetting up and slamming the door closed, leaving Naruto to his own thoughts. Troops within Night Raid were mobilizing. When Lubbock got back stating that Naruto was captured, Negenda had told everyone to get ready. But with Shield, Negenda told her to stay put along with Susanoo. With the two agreeing to hold down the fort, they all embarked on the journey to go and rescue their comrade, and with the majority of them, lover. But seeing that it will most likely be an execution, the area of the execution was going to be heavily guarded. But regardless of such a feat of attack, they had to push through and rescue Naruto. There was only one place they'd perform the execution. And that was at the arena. The very same arena where tournaments were held. Together with executions of individuals. They just prayed they'd make it in time. But Naruto. Hearing his cell door click open. He looked up and found some guards with a set of chains and cuffs as they walked over to Naruto. Once Naruto was in chains, they escorted him to a platform where he'd be hoisted up to be executed in front of every person in the empire. Walking along the cold halls of the prison, Naruto spotted Esdeath who was standing in the middle of the way. Stopping before her, she grabbed Naruto's face and locked eyes with him. I'm sorry it turned out this way. She said with a tear flowing down her cheeks. I'm not. Replied Naruto coldly. The name of the devil's hand had gained so much traction in the days past. Kill me and I become a matter. This will only be the beginning. I wish there was another way. Said Esdeath as Naruto was taken away. Standing there as she held herself, she couldn't help but feel absolute pity for what she was about to do to the man she loved. Naruto was truly the man she wanted. And now that it is known throughout the empire that a member of Night Raid was going to be put down, everyone was excited. Only those who were enthusiasts about the empire thing. And guess who was to carry out the execution of the devil's hand? That's right. Esdeath was to execute Naruto. Yet, she couldn't bring herself to do it. She couldn't kill the man she gave herself to. She couldn't bear the thought of losing the man she loved. And even if she could kill Naruto, there was no way in hell she was going to find another man like him. Steeling herself while drying her eyes, she headed to the surface to wait and then enact the execution of Naruto. But no one would guess what she had up her sleeve. Execution time. With Naruto now being strung up on a crucifix type of getup. Looking to the top where the emperor sat, Naruto found Esdeath there. Hanging his head once again, he soon heard Esdeath's footsteps coming toward him, along with the drawing of her rapier. Looking to her, he smiled while Esdeath held a fragile mask of seriousness. Don't blame yourself. If things were different. Believe me. I'd have that family with you. Said Naruto with Esdeath gasping in shock. You mean it? She said, her voice shaking in fear. I do. Esdeath-chan. Said Naruto as Esdeath steeled herself again. For your crimes against the empire. You will be put to death on this day. She barked as she drew back her rapier. The forces of Night Raid, who were hiding among the crowd, watched on with absolute bated breath. They couldn't strike just yet, but even if they did, Naruto would still die. But on the other hand, should Naruto be killed, then he'd become a matter, and they'd gain a large amount of people who looked to the Devil's Hand as a means to save them. People would take it on themselves to make their future a reality in the name of the Devil's Hand. But that was when Naruto scrunched his eyes closed as Esdeath soon thrusted her rapier forth, ending it all, and finally put this nightmare the Empire had been dealing with to bed. But when it came to the wire, the only thing heard was the sound of metal hitting metal with an audible clanging noise. Slowly opening his eyes, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise from what he was seeing. The very rapier intended to end him was inches away from his right ear. Looking to Esdeath, who was in full-blown tears as she hung her head. Everyone gasped at what was going on. As to the one question they all had on their minds. Why wasn't the Devil's Hand dead? "I can't do it," said Esdeath. "I can't kill the man I love. General Esdeath. You will kill this vermin and ensure our holy land is secure. Are you saying you are enacting insubordination?" yelled the Prime Minister. "I just can't kill the man I love and want," replied Esdeath as she cut Naruto down from the crucifix. "As well, I can't get rid of the man who is the father of my child." "Are you saying?" trailed the Emperor with Esdeath nodding her head. I am pregnant with an enemy's child," she said aloud, making everyone gasp only to have Naruto smile. "Does this mean?" he said with Esdeath grabbing his cheeks and kissing him on the lips. "It does. Naruto-kun. I'm going you," said Esdeath only to have the Prime Minister shoot to his feet. "Inexcusable. Esdeath, you will be executed on the spot. Seize them." He spat only to have Naruto grab Esdeath by the waist and pull her close, having her squeak in delight. "Let's get going then," said Naruto holding out his hand and Red King flying into his hands. But the guards charging forth at them, Naruto got the chainsaw spinning, and soon enough, he swung the God Arc, which resulted in a powerful wave of energy to leap from the weapon. With a path now clear, they sprinted out the arena as the Prime Minister howled at them at how he was going to kill them for what they have done. Stopping just a small bit away from the capital, Naruto and Esdeath caught their breath while Naruto looked over Red King. "Even though it has been a day, it feels good to have to back. Partner," said Naruto with the God Arc revving once. "What are we gonna do now?" asked Esdeath only to be surrounded by people in cloaks. "Why not join Night Raid?" said Najenda pulling off her cloak. "Sounds good to me," said Esdeath. Even though Night Raid had Esdeath on their side, which was a major boost in power, things were still very much tensioned as it was in Night Raid HQ. Reason why things were so tensioned in Night Raid was because of the fact that Alisa had her own reasons for wanting Esdeath dead for what she had done. Esdeath didn't blame her at all. She, after all, had to pay one way or another for the atrocities she had done to innocent lives. One day, when Alisa and Naruto had finished getting some training done, Esdeath approached the female forbidden Teigu wielder and asked for forgiveness. Even going so far as to bowing to Alisa as a sign of respect. After a few days of Esdeath doing this, Alisa caved and told her that she was forgiven. However, should she turn on Naruto's love for her or anyone else, Alisa would be damn sure to be the one to kill her. Esdeath agreed to these conditions, and from then on out, Alisa went about her business with Esdeath doing the same. It didn't take long for that hatchet to be buried, and the two once enemies soon became friends and even lovers through Naruto. But things soon got awkward when Esdeath approached Sylvaria and called her sister. Things soon got complicated as everyone wondered why Esdeath just called Sylvaria that. Esdeath explained to everyone that from some digging and documents thought to have been lost, she and Sylvaria were in fact biological half-sisters. As it turned out, Sylvaria was older than Esdeath by a few years. Their mother was married to a different man, being Sylvaria's father. And yes, both parents were full-blooded Valkyria. Hence why Sylvaria is a full-blooded Valkyria. But when Sylvaria's village was raided and the people murdered, they ran from the slaughter. But the two were separated, leaving Sylvaria to be raised by her father. But for their mother, it turned out she went adrift and found herself in a different village in the snowy mountains. There she soon fell in love again and married the village chief who was human. Thus Esdeath was born a half-Valkyria. Deciding to take a test as to see if what she said was true, they took the test and it came back positive. Esdeath and Sylvaria were related by blood and were indeed half-sisters. But a very strong shock came when Naruto came clean when he too did some digging. Tracing it all back to when Lenka's daughter was taken. He told them that he was the descendant of Lenka and also of royal blood. Sure, the blood was dilated over the years, sure he had only 1/8 royal blood in his veins, but he was still a member of the royal family. Which meant he was very much next in line to the throne. Weighing out their options, they chose to go now. But not before more allies joined them, being Ran, Kurama and Wave. With all these fighters now on their side, this may go in their favor. Assessing his gear along with everyone doing the same, Naruto was soon interrupted when both Esdeath and Sylvaria came into his room. Looking over to them, Naruto felt that they were a bit uneasy regarding the whole final fight. This one was going to be a bloody one and many people will be killed. They were extremely worried that they themselves may end up as one of the corpses. Naruto merely gave them a kiss each and assured them that they were going to win this fight. And once he was on the throne, he'd ensure the people lived prosperous lives and not live in despair. But their gear assessed, they marched forth to the final fight. Where the defining moment of all their hard work was going to pay off or not. The moment of retribution was upon them. Empire capital. Now. The emperor was right now doing what he did best. Being as naive as ever and being manipulated by the prime minister. Not knowing that the one pulling the strings was not him but a tyrant man who had a thing for cannibalism. But as the emperor was about to condemn a man to be executed for suspicion of being part of the enemy, a massive earthquake shook the grounds. What on earth was that? Barked the prime minister as a guard was seen running into the throne room. Your Highness, it's the Revolutionary Army together with Knight Rai. Esdeath has been spotted on the front lines. Said the guard. Dispatch every troop we have. We will not falter. Ordered the prime minister before turning to the emperor. You should get ready with your Teigu, Your Highness. Understood. It's time to put these idiots in their place. Said the emperor heading off. Just outside the castle, right in the front lines, was everyone attacking soldiers left, right and center. But leading the assault was Naruto. Red King humming as the Teigu cut down enemies left and right. Blood coated the weapon as he teeth of the chainsaw cut down another enemy. But as they moved in, they soon found the ground shaking with the castle falling apart as a gigantic robot came up from the ground. Flicking his tongue as he switched the God Arc into gunner mode, Naruto opened fire, who soon found Alisa joining in as they fired at the new opponent. But both soon stopped and switched on their shields as a laser beam was fired at them. They managed to deflect the beam, but a few buildings were cut down with innocent lives taken then and there. Any ideas? Asked Esdeath looking to the damage. Just one. Replied Naruto as he activated his one trump card and soon began to grow and take on the form of the Demon King Kurama. 9 tails flowed behind him as the beast growled evilly at the robot it was pitted against. The robot turned to the new enemy and got a beam ready. Naruto too got a beam ready for the counter move. Soon enough, both beams were fired and connected in middle as Naruto and T-Emperor were locked in a fight of power. But soon enough both attacks were cancelled out as smoke was kicked up from their attack. Using the smoke as a mean, Naruto charged forth and managed to pin the robot down. The Prime Minister barked at the Emperor to take down Night Raid and whatnot. But he was soon snuffed out of existence as a small beam of energy was launched from Naruto's mouth that vaporized the Prime Minister. Turning his attention back to the robot, Naruto got ready to end it all as a beam of energy was ready to be launched from his mouth. But the Emperor wasn't gonna go down easily and kick Naruto off him. Naruto was sent sailing a few meters away as he growled to the Emperor, who was now getting on his feet. But just as Naruto was about to charge, his trump card timed out and he dropped to the floor as he reverted back to normal. Blood flowed down his body as he was exhausted from using the trump card like that, knowing full well that it will eat away at his life force like that. Both Alisa and Esdeath held Naruto close and tended to his wounds. But he stopped them as he slowly got to his feet. Naruto-kun. You're gonna die if you're not careful. Stated Esdeath as Naruto grabbed Red King and pulled Incursio off his back. If it means saving this world then so be it. Said Naruto as he gave one last valiant push to end it all. And in that instant, his final form unlocked. Both Incursio and Red King merged one last time as their master took on a more different change. A blinding light was shown throughout the area as every covered their eyes who was close to Naruto. Soon enough, when the light died down, Naruto stood there in a final trump card. His hair looked to be on fire, while 2 pieces of hair surged upwards to resemble horns. A cloak that was on fire and also was cut to resemble 9 tails rested on his shoulders. That's right, the full QB cloak mode. This ends now. Barked Naruto as he charged forth. Even though the new form was powerful, he knew he'd be at a serious disadvantage when it timed out. So he had to end the fight now. Using his new power, he blocked an incoming attack from the robot but soon found that he was pushed down. Grunting in pain as the beam continued to push him down, he soon heard a voice within his head. Finish this. Naruto. You're my host. You're the host to Kurama. The demon king of all. Finish it. Boomed the voice within his mind. And soon enough, Naruto began to push back. Red energy surged forth around him as he slowly got to his feet. With a cry of power, Naruto deflected the beam and shot off like a rocket toward the robot. Ethereal wings soon burst to life out his back and he gained even more speed. And soon enough, rearing back a fist, he sent it into the head of the robot with a beam of yellow-orange energy flowing from the punch. The beam hit square through the Emperor's chest, piercing his heart and ending him then and there. The robot soon crashed down to the ground as it soon exploded, while Naruto's new trump card vanished and him dropping to the floor. He was soon caught thanks to Esdeath and her sister, Silveria. His body was beaten and bloody. He looked to not even make it at all. But that was thrown out the window when Naruto gasped as he coughed a bit as his heart began to beat. "You're alive," said Esdeath with Silveria smiling. "Yeah? For now," said Naruto as everyone gathered around him. "You did it," said Najenda with Naruto shaking his head. "We did it. We all did this. We won," said Naruto with everyone celebrating their victory over the Empire. 10 years later. Standing at his window, in royal attire, Naruto gazed at the vast and now very prosperous land. It had been 10 years since they fought the Emperor and won. Some people were still fearful that Naruto would be even worse than the previous Emperor, but he was surprisingly not. Turning from the window and looking to the glass casing near his desk, he found Red King and Incursio resting there. Yes, he was still bonded to the two weapons, he swore to only use them when the need arose. And that was on extreme rare occasions. Speaking of these two Teigu, they were pretty much now the royal weapons. In fact, a lot of the weapons that belonged to the wives of Naruto also became the royal weapons. The Kame bestowed her daughter her weapon and ensured she knew what she was getting into. Their daughter they chose to name after Naruto's mother, Kushina. She took more of her mother's appearance, but had purple-blue eyes and a red streak along the front part of her head. Esdeath and Silveria too gave birth to their children. Silveria gave birth to a son, which she named Sect. The boy had his mother's fiery eyes, but had a blonde tint in his cyan hair. Esdeath gave birth to a girl and named her Shizuku. Even though the child had cyan blue hair like her mother, she had different colored eyes, being one of a crystal blue with the other a very deep blue. Leone gave birth to twins. A boy and a girl. They named the boy Jack, while the other was named Sarah. They were both like their parents respectively in terms of appearance. And they even had polar opposite natures. With Jack having a rash nature while Sarah had a gentle nature. Shield gave birth to a boy they both named Minato. They loved every bit of him when he came into the world. He was proven to be quite the klutz much like his mother, but he was well-mannered and always knew where boundaries lay. Alisa and Subik gave to their children at the same time, making them Suedo twins. Alisa gave birth to a girl that she named Hera, she very much looked like her mother, while Tsubaki gave birth to a boy that she named Nura. And yes, he looked very much like his father and even on occasions, acted like him as well. Najenda and Naruto married after a few years of dating, and she soon gave birth to Naruto's daughter, that they named Mito. She had an extremely pale silver hair color, while her eyes were an electric blue. Telsi, who was the latest to confess to Naruto, got married to him soon after, and she very much gave birth to a set of twins that she named Lenka and Sakuya. After the predecessors of the royal couple got arcs. Lubbock soon confessed to mine, and they married shortly after a few times of dating. They had a child together and named the child Yami. And yes, the name very much implied they had a daughter. She very much looked like her mother while she had her father's eyes. And yes, Lubbock went with his dream and opened a bookstore. Which was rather popular. With everything now going well. Naruto smiled to himself and made his way to the throne room and sat on his throne. As he sat there, Lubbock was seen walking in. "Nice looking down on people," he joked. "Trust me. There's a bloody draft and I freeze during winter," retorted Naruto. "Listen. There has been much talk in the kingdom and they are now asking questions," said Lubbock, making Naruto arch an eyebrow. "Oh? Like what?" asked Naruto. "As to when the emperor will name the successor to Red King and Incursio," said Lubbock. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.